Welcome to the Frederick Family Acre. My name's George.
And I'm Katrina.
And today we are going to be discussing a super simple, fairly cheap, very fast and efficient way to put vermicomposting, which is composting with worms, right in your garden bed.
Now, composting is an essential part of having a successful garden. And there are a lot of ways to compost. Unfortunately, a lot of composting methods require a lot of space. And the reason we love vermicompost so much is because you can do it on a very small scale or make it massive. And we do have a larger system, but we wanted to try this out because our big system we're going to need to be working for us in other ways that we'll be sharing with you guys later. Now, one of the big benefits of compost is that it saves you a lot of money because you are not throwing away your food scraps, and you are not having to spend money to go buy liquid nutrients or granular fertilizers because you're creating it all at home from things that you used to throw away. And the other reason that compost is so essential is that it really does help keep all the microorganisms in your soil alive. Our soil is living. It's very important to feed it. And by adding compost, you're adding back that organic matter and you're adding back all those little microorganisms that help participate in the composting process.
Like we said before, this is a very simple, very fast, in garden bed or in ground, or if you wanted to, I'm sure you could put this in a pot or a grow bag as well, vermicomposting system. And essentially what it is a container that's buried in the ground that you put your green waste in. There's worms in there. They turn it into black gold and they go out and disperse it in the bed for you for the most part. You can use almost any container for this. The most common one that I've seen is 5-gallon work buckets or like a large plastic food grade bucket. You can use a small trash can. We opted for 4-inch PVC pipe. You can use 6-inch PVC pipe, anything you can imagine. As long as you can get a cap on it, it's food grade and you can keep the majority or preferably all of the light out of it. So because this can be done to any scale, this is a great way to fit a composting system into a really small space. You can see here we have a, what is this, 3x5, 3x6?
I think 3x6.
3x6 bed, and we have 2 vermicomposting systems in it. And we'll get somewhere between 200 to 300 worms inside of this bed composting for us.
The additional benefit of having the worms in your garden bed is as they move around the soil, it's going to help keep your soil aerated and loose, which your plants' roots love. So not only is your soil going to be more nutritionally healthier, its structure of the soil is going to be improved as well by implementing a system like this.
Now, for you city people that live in apartments, condos, townhomes, etc., this is an amazing way to go for your smaller raised beds to get you that compost, get you that awesome black gold nutrient that everyone wants and you pay the big bucks for right in your garden bed.
Now, the biggest question, I think, is how much does it cost? Because we all always want to know how much something costs because, well, it sounds great, you know. You don't want to spend $1 million for the $50 tomato or $100 tomato. It can add up really fast. For us today, getting 2 of these into this raised bed cost us $22. But the caveat is we already had a lot of things that we needed. We already have a large vermicompost system, so we're going to take worms from there. We put them into here. That's not costing us anything extra. Additionally, we printed our caps on our 3D printer. We did check the price on this though, so we could let you guys know how much you would be looking at if you had to go get everything. The cost breakdown, if you were going to gather all the supplies you needed for this, and we're assuming that you'll have the very few basic tools that you need to make this. If not, it will end up being more.
You really only need a drill and a drill bit, and that's it.
And a straight edge. Yeah. It's fine. Like, it's super simple.
But you can use a ruler, tape measure. And if you don't care about the holes being straight, you don't even need that.
Out the door, you are looking at about 50 bucks. The 1 foot of 4-inch pipe will come to about $10.50. That will vary some based on your location. We are in Southern California. Sometimes things are more expensive here, so it might be cheaper where you are. $15 for the cap. And if you are going to need worms, the first place I would recommend checking is with your friends. If you have a friend that already has a vermicompost going, chances are they're gonna be willing to share some of their worms with you. You could do a trade, you could pay them a few bucks. But if you don't know someone that you can get some worms from locally, we'll have a link down below for where we got our worms a few years ago. It's Uncle Jim's Worm Farm, and they have lasted really good. We have lots of baby worms. We've had no problems, and our vermicompost, our worm colony, is coming up on 3 years. We've been very satisfied with the quality of the worms that we received, the red wiggler worms.
Yep, we use red wigglers. I think we got 1,000 to begin with, or something like that. And I mean, they are just going.
The price for those, for 100, which is a wonderful amount for a bed this size to start out, because they will make more baby worms for you, is $24.99. So out the door for your pipe, your cap, and your worms, you're looking at about 50 bucks, which you can spend on 2 little containers of fertilizer that is only gonna last you maybe 1 season, depending on how many garden beds you have and how many plants you need to feed.
It is worth mentioning, you can cut your costs. Some things to think about if you want to spend a little bit less than using PVC and you're building a larger system, or you want more worms or a larger composting area, you can use a 3 or 5 gallon bucket, and that is going to run you somewhere between $5 and $7 instead of $10.50, and it comes with a lid, so you cut the cost on that. So you're actually cutting it by more than half if you go with a bucket, but it does take up quite a bit more room in your bed. Now, like we said before, you can do this in any container that you can think of, so be creative, as long as it's food grade and as long as it blocks out the light. So if you're going to copy this exact build, for materials, you will need your pipe, you will need a cap for your pipe, you will need a drill, and you will need a drill bit. At least a 1/4 inch. We use 3/4 inch on this. In my mind, the bigger the better. Allows them to get in and out easier and pull those castings out into the bed with them. You're also gonna need something to measure with and a pen, and that's it.
And just like the material list, the process of making this is very short and very simple. So we will get into exactly how we did that. First, we got our 4-inch pipe. We did cut ours here, but if you do not have something that will allow you to do that, you can actually ask your hardware store to do it for you, and they will cut it to length. And what we did was we just measured roughly across the top of our pipe, made a middle mark, marked both sides, turned it the other way, made quarters, and then 8 marks. So we had 8 marks. Once the top was marked, we just laid the pipe down on the side and then measured down. Since we were doing the 3/4 inch holes, we made our marks 1.5 inches from the top and then 1.5 inches all the way down, and we ended up with 5 rows of holes.
For the drilling, really all you do is drill a hole. It's totally worth mentioning though that the holes are much easier to drill if you're using a bigger bit if you do a pilot hole. So if you choose to use a larger bit, I would very much recommend going in with a smaller bit to begin with, just to get either a starter dimple or drill all the way through and create a starter hole. That's going to give your larger bit something to anchor in so it doesn't wander across the pipe and get your hole somewhere you don't want it to be. Once the holes were drilled, I did clean them up with a little bit of sandpaper just to get rid of some of the burrs and some of the sharper pieces, just to make sure that we're not harming the worms when they're going in and out of those holes.
And it is worth noting that the material that is going to come off of the PVC pipe, it is not recyclable, it's not biodegradable. So do your best to gather all those up so you're not going to leave microplastics around.
And it's a mess.
It is a
be prepared for that. Do it somewhere where you can easily sweep it up. you are going to create a lot of plastic shavings.
Once you're done with drilling the holes in the sanding, it's time to install your pipe or bucket or your container of choice into your bed. Since our bed right now is empty and we are getting ready to transplant everything out for this summer season, we went ahead and just put a 2x4 across the top of ours and pounded it in with a sledgehammer and then we removed the dirt. Well, actually, we didn't. Our sweet boys did. And, you know, it's one of the benefits of having the kids is they'll get their hands dirty for you sometimes.
And kids love worms, so it's not a big ask.
Worms. If you already have plants in the space where you are going to be installing this, just carefully dig out the space and insert it and try and minimize root damage if possible so that you're helping your plants with this and not harming them by getting the system up and running in your space.
And when you install it, make sure you leave 1 inch to 2 inches above the ground when you put your pipe down or your bucket or container, just so when you mulch, you're not covering the entire system.
And after that, it's time to load up the system.
Yeah, super simple. So from there, really all you do once the dirt's cleaned out is you're going to put some kind of brown waste in there first. So that can be, we use shredded paper. You can use brown napkins, you can use shredded paper, you could use old paper bags, you could use leaves, you can use any brown waste that you want. Put that in first, then you're going to put in your worms. For ours, again, we're going for about 100 to 200 worms, somewhere in there, maybe a little bit more, but we put half in one and half in the other. And then we put green waste on top of them. So for us, that was cabbage. For you, that could be lettuce, it could be any leafy green, it could be melons if you want, huge favorite of worms.
Banana peel, anything you can think of. Well, almost. You don't want to put eggshells in here. You don't want to put meat in here. No dairy products, and absolutely avoid all citrus. Do not put
salt.
any citrus or anything salty in here because that is not going to be good for your worms. Now, another tip that is going to help things break up quicker for you and get those beautiful, rich worm castings into your garden quicker is taking a little bit of time and chopping up whatever it is you're doing. Now, you can chop it into cubes or you can just slice it into thin slices. Any preference you want. I know some people will sometimes put this stuff in their blender and chop it up. I don't go to that extreme, but especially if I'm going to put in a banana peel or something, I will go ahead and cut that up smaller because it makes it easier for the worms to chow down on it.
And once you have your green waste in there from your kitchen or from your garden, you're going to go ahead and just put another layer of brown on top. Once that's on there, you can water it down really good and cap it, and it is going.
From there on out, it's pretty much maintenance. You will be able to keep layering things in until you reach the top of your vessel. And over time, the worms will break it down and they will naturally drag some of these castings out into your bed. There is a chance that you could end up with a period where you have a whole lot of worm castings in there. And when that happens, just go ahead and take some of those out and sprinkle them across the top, and you can disperse them across your bed more. Just keep in mind that as you are continuing to layer up in here, you always kind of want to have a brown be the final layer that you're putting on top.
Yep, that's gonna do a couple things. One, it's gonna make the worms feel more secure. And two, it's going to keep other critters and bugs from wanting to get down in there at the food. You're gonna reduce or eliminate flies, and you're gonna reduce and eliminate any other kind of pests that you don't want to be in there. Another thing about red wigglers in general, if that's what you're using, they're what's called surface worms, and they only travel between, well, normally they will only travel between 3 and 5 inches down from the surface of your soil. So when you do put in your waste, try not to make it too deep.
And that is it. It is a very fast project, less than an hour. You can get everything together, drilled in and cleaned up. It is very affordable and just such a great thing to do for your garden. If you have done a project like this or have any experience you want to share about vermicomposting or any questions, please leave them for us in the comments below.
And if you like this video and you feel like it might help someone out, please go ahead and share it. You'd be doing us a huge favor and we would greatly appreciate it.
If you enjoy learning about vermicomposting, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. We have 2 more different builds of vermicomposters coming up, as well as we're going to be going over making compost tea and all kinds of other things. We're going to have a playlist for vermicomposting. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, and we will see you guys back here soon. I didn't even know that.
Yep.
I just learned something new. That's because you were
What's
the worm
next?
guy. I mean, that's freaking it.
Is it?
Done.
Okay.
Wrap her up.
That's you.
Do you see that?
Totally.
Oh, it's moving in my fingers. Ah!